Welcome back to Tender, or I should say Stender Thoughts. We've been dealing with the tender topic of love. Recently, last week, I was in New York City, Midtown, and thinking about this notion of love and the different directions. I literally bumped into a man who was now on trial for creating a terrible financial scandal in New York City, a Jewish man. Not just New York City, worldwide, and you know who I'm talking about. And after I got over my shock and was able to verify that that was indeed who I bumped into in the local Jewish restaurant, I said to myself, gosh, what's my obligation to him? What would the Rambam say about what type of love I have to show to Bernie? And so we continue with our notion of love and creating the moral society. We'll get back to how I picture the conversation. The Rambam says, after he speaks about in the creation of the moral society, that if you can't have a moral society, you have to live alone. If you're creating the moral society, you have to love Talmid Chachamim, Jewish scholars, to be close to them. That's what we discussed last time. And at this point, the love of every fellow Jew. You have to love your fellow as yourself. Now, many commentators say in that you should love your fellow as yourself, and the Rambam says that the Rambam only means a person who is just the way you are, meaning he's on the same path in Torah and mitzvot, that if that person obeys the Torah, learns the Torah, observes the mitzvot, that's the person that you're obligated to love, but the rest perhaps you have no obligation. Other commentators, and that's the direction that we have gone in Pardes, and I'm sure in your community, understanding the Rambam differently, that this is an unconditional type of love. That even for a person who we may have problems with, it says the following. It says, it means we have to love him even if we bring a person to trial and even if we have a difficulty. How do you show your love? And now I'm going to how the Rambam continues. How do you show your love for a fellow Jew? Well, in the laws of Avel, the laws of mourning, the Rambam says that you take care of a funeral for such a person, or you help that person in their mourning situation. That's all part of the love. Or if there's a time of joy, you help that person get married off, or help them marry off their child, or help them dower the bride to make sure they have what they need. In other places, the Rambam says that the law of Pidyon Shavuim, of redeeming captives, is a subset of the law of loving your fellow human being. Here, in the 6th chapter of Hilchot Deot, the laws of proper opinion, the Rambam has another list. And this is a formative list. All these lists come together. And the Rambam says, Sarech l'saper shvacho. You have to speak in praise of the individual. V'achus al mumuno. And you have to be careful about his money. Kasher chas al mumuno atzmo, just as you're careful with your own money. V'rotzeh b'chavod atzmo. And you have to make sure that that individual is given the proper attention. Well, certainly those people who have not been careful with fellow Jews and financial institutions and Jewish foundations and Jewish schools have not been careful about other people's money. That is without exception a terrible sin, and that shows a lack of Ahavat Yisrael. A person who's not able to elevate another Jew, but actually causes a situation in which the person is destroyed is incredibly indicted by the lack of Ahavat Yisrael. At the same time, and it's paradoxically, and such a person must go to trial, such a person for whose their deeds must be condemned and must be shown to be something that we're no part of, and something we dislike. At the same time, the Rambam is pretty clear that such a person nonetheless has to be the recipient of Ahavat Yisrael. Such a person must get a proper trial, and metaphorically, when the Rambam speaks about Ahavat Yisrael, he says in Hilchot Sanhedrin that even a person who's on his way to the execution block, the person who we condemn and a person we have a difficulty with, we still must show him and arrange for him the most proper and painless execution. The execution of justice in this case is not formal execution, but nonetheless we still are obligated to Ahavat Yisrael. No one ever said that love was easy. In this case, love is pretty hard. but this is the basis of a moral society, a loving society. And we'll continue the conversation in the next installment of Stender